Lucky! Go! With the St. Patty's Day holiday just right around the corner, folks, I thought we would bring it in and celebrate it early, as next week's going to be TV week during the holiday itself. So we got to celebrate it the way that I always try to do here on the show, and that's by talking my boy, Lubdan the Leprechaun. Tonight in movie reviews, we are doing Leprechaun 4 in space. Stay tuned. Hey, what's going on, scary movie people? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Folks, like I said, on St. Patty's Day itself, it's going to be TV week, so I figured we would just bring in the holiday early while we're talking some movies, and the best way to do that is hanging with my homie, Lubdan the Leprechaun. So tonight in movie reviews, we are talking Leprechaun 4 in space. Before we get on into that, y'all, if you're a Leprechaun fan and you want to check out reviews I've done for other films in the franchise, then you're going to want to smash that subscribe button, hit that follow button, because my channel features a number of reviews for other films in the franchise. And like I said, next week's going to be TV week, so we got a lot of great scary shows that we're going to be jumping back into that I'm going to tell you about here at the end of this review. Folks, for all your horror needs, smash that subscribe button, hit that like, hit that follow there. Got a lot of great stuff coming your way. But let's not waste any time. Let's bring in the holiday the right way and talk Leprechaun 4 in space. So, resurfacing on an alien planet, the Leprechaun abducts a member of the world's royalty, Princess Zarina, in an attempt to wed her and become the supreme ruler. Unfortunately for the diminutive schemer, well-armed soldiers arrive and foil his plans. Not easily defeated, however, the feisty Leprechaun continues to battle the Marines while also contending with the warp scientist known as Dr. Menenhand. And there it is, y'all. That is Leprechaun 4 in space. Now, the great thing about this franchise is that every single entry is self-contained. There's not that many horror franchises out there that are doing it. A lot of other ones require you to do a little bit of homework so you can actually access the plot, the villain, the lore, all of that the right way. So you're a little bit better prepped for it. But Leprechaun doesn't do that. The only constant throughout the grand majority of these films, up to Leprechaun Back to the Hood, is Warwick Davis performing as Lubdan the Leprechaun. Outside of that, nothing carries over from film to film to film. And honestly, that might have been the best course of action for this specific franchise, just because while we're not going to argue and say franchises like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hellraiser, any of those out there, we're not going to argue and say that those are highbrow by any means, or that any of them are grounded in reality. They are very, very much not. But it feels like those films are taken just a little bit more serious, right? Because usually the tone of the Leprechaun films is very humorous, very tongue-in-cheek, very black comedy, more so than being horror, right? The Leprechaun himself is rarely actually that scary outside of like the original film. And so with that, that means that it's going to be fairly easy for somebody who might have an interest in this franchise, or they're looking for an easy horror franchise to just pick up and jump into. This might be the one to do because of that fact. And on that note, keep in mind that this film, Leprechaun 4, and a number of the other Leprechaun films, they're free on Peacock and Plex right now for you to go and check out. So if you do have an interest after seeing this review, now is the time to go and do that. But again, it's just so interesting because, for example, Leprechauns 1 and 3 end up following the same motivation for the Leprechaun. He's trying to get his gold coins back. Leprechauns 2 and 4 again follow the same plot to where it's not about the gold coins, It's about Lubdan trying to find a bride. So it's interesting how the first 4 entries in this franchise alternate what his motivation is, and yet and still nothing gets carried over from one to the other. But it's also important to point out that even though there are 2 more Leprechaun films set after this one, this film would chronologically be the last film in the actual series itself. It's kind of like it's kind of like how Friday the 13th works, to where Jason X sends Jason Voorhees out into space, but then we still have Freddy versus Jason to get to, right? So Freddy versus Jason would obviously take place before that, and then years and years later, that's where we get Jason X out of it all. And that's actually funny in itself as well too, because y'all, this is the first time I've seen this film a number of times over my life, or in my life now, and this most recent time watching it is the first time I realized there's a bit of shared DNA here with Jason X. And I get that's probably low-hanging fruit just because they're both set in space here, but follow me on this one. Marines, or this monster, whether it's Leprechaun or Jason, end up on a ship that is filled with Marines. The Marines end up killing said monster, and then through some kind of trickery, whether it be magic in Leprechaun, or whether it be science and nanobites in Jason X, the monster gets brought back, continues on the path of destruction, killing Marines and anybody else that's on that ship, and it ultimately leads to some kind of self-destruct sequence that will hopefully save or kill all of them by the end of it. There's definitely some shared DNA between Jason X and Leprechaun 4, and I am not accusing the Jason X people of ripping Leprechaun 4 off, because that's just the thing that you do. When the franchise gets like the stale, you need to do something new, you send that villain up into space. It works well. We should see it a lot more. I want to see that trope come back here as we get new franchise entries for a lot of these older ones here. But I digress. I still argue that these films, Jason X and Leprechaun 4, those are brothers, they're sisters, they're cousins, they're in the same family, no matter how you want to look at that here. Anyway, though, the plot of this one, again, is following the Leprechaun trying to get married and contending with all these space Marines aboard their ship and killing them off in a number of whimsical ways. And that's always been one of the hook of the Leprechaun series, right? That even though all these deaths, all these like killings that the Leprechaun enacts, they're typically very bloody, they're typically visceral, they can be gory in a lot of these entries here, but they're always played very lightheartedly, right? Like, again, it's dark, and these people are very much getting killed and losing fingers, and all these things are happening. But at the same time, they have the Leprechaun just lean into the devilish joy of it so much, like way more than Freddy Krueger ever could, that it makes them feel so lighthearted. To a point to where, like, again, outside of that first film, these films would be honestly perfect to show a teenage audience, and I feel like you wouldn't need to worry so much about them having nightmares, just again because of the way that the Leprechaun like portrays himself in these films, and the way that all of these deaths are just very much played for laughs. That's something very much unique here about this particular franchise, and I enjoy it so much. The space thing seems like it would be hard to accept, honestly, because in the previous 3 entries, whether we're out in the countryside, we're in Las Vegas, we're in the suburbs, it doesn't really ultimately matter. Like, it's very much not over the top. And here, it being in space, the movie starts like right away with that title sequence, and we jump right into again seeing Lubdan the Leprechaun and Warwick Davis doing the most fun work, in my opinion, of his career, honestly. The film just gets you right into it here, and you just kind of accept it at that point, because again, there is no setup. We don't talk about how the Leprechaun got into space on a different planet and is now trying to marry an alien princess. None of that is relevant to the plot in the least bit. All you need to know is that's the Leprechaun. Leprechaun's the bad guy. Leprechaun's going to kill anybody that gets in his way of accomplishing his goals. And honestly, I applaud our screenwriters just sticking to that and saying, this is the deal, this is what you have to accept. It's very digestible, honestly. It very much is. And it's helped out by having a few people in the cast that we very much know from other horror projects as well, too, or just in general from a lot of noteworthy projects over the years. For example, Deb Dunning from Home Improvement, or more notably from the Tales from the Crypt episode, The Pit, plays one of our Marines here. Miguel Nunez Jr., who I just got done highlighting back in February as one of our icons of Black horror history. You've seen him in Friday the 13th Part 5, Return of the Living Dead, Scooby-Doo. He plays Private Sticks, another one of the Marines. Jessica Collins, who plays Dr. Tina, who I notably know from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, playing one of the reporters during the hurricane that Dennis and Mac are just locked onto. There's a lot of notable names in this, and it's a great reminder that back in the 90s, we got to see a lot of actors do either direct-to-video sequels or later sequels in these horror franchises, because honestly, that was the start of their career, or at that point, it was something that was at least going to be notable for them. Like, again, Leprechaun 4 is not going to be the movie that's like, man, yeah, I did Leprechaun 4, but at the same time, saying that you're a part of one of these bigger horror franchises, that's something that a lot of people really did want on their resume at one time or another. Now, again, this film is not my favorite in the Leprechaun franchise. I think there's some great kills in it. The Leprechaun uses a lightsaber. He literally explodes a dude's dick. Dr. Middenhand becomes a half scorpion, half tarantula. The Leprechaun becomes a giant. There is so much madness that goes on here in this particular film that it's a blast to watch, but yet and still, it is not my favorite in the franchise. I'm a big Leprechaun in the Hood fan, and a lot of the other entries I do enjoy, just like the Las Vegas setting of Leprechaun 3. There's a lot really to enjoy here in this franchise, but again, that's the interesting thing here about Leprechaun 4. It's not my favorite, but at the same time, it's probably the one that I go back to the most, just because of the fact that it just jumps you right on in. The Leprechaun is the first character that you get like acquainted with right off the jump there. You got Space Marines, you got some great battles in it. There's so much here in this film really to enjoy, honestly, and it doesn't take itself as seriously as a lot of the earlier entries before it try to. I'm not saying that Leprechauns 1 through 3 are serious films. They're not, but they play things just a little bit more straightforward than the way Leprechaun in Space and Leprechaun in the Hood tend to. And man, really go watch Leprechaun in the Hood. That is such a good movie. Such a good movie, honestly. But with that being said, I have a lot of fun here with Leprechaun 4, and I want y'all to have a lot of fun with this one as well, too. Again, St. Paddy's Day is coming up, and if you don't have any kind of tradition of something you're going to watch, this might as well start a new one for you. Go and check this one out on Peacock or Plex right now. I am giving Leprechaun 4 in Space a 3 out of 5. That is a very, very strong 3 out of 5, y'all. Again, I don't think this is a bad movie. This is one that brings a lot of joy to me. I have great nostalgia going back from the first time I saw this, literally when it hit, I think it was Stars or Showtime back in the late 90s, and checking this one out. This is something that's going to leave a smile on your face. I'm curious. Let me know in the comment section your opinion on the Leprechaun franchise. Are you a Leprechaun in the Hood person? Are you a Leprechaun 3 person? Or do you fuck with Leprechaun 4 in Space? Let me know. And like I said, make sure you are getting subscribed. Make sure you're hitting that follow button, because next week is TV week, y'all. So we're going to be hitting some Welcome to Derry. We're going to get into the Creep Tapes of the penultimate episode of season 2. We're going to be talking some Alien Earth. And we might just have one more surprise in there for y'all as well, too. We'll see what we can get done. But I appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Thank you for checking out this review. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and tell me in the comment section what you'd like me to check out here in the coming months. Folks, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.